And to close, we're going to ask each panelist to answer 2 questions. One of the most memorable experiences they've had working with a student or in the college admissions game. And 2, is there any question that we've left out, something really important that you want students and parents at home just to know and keep in mind as they go through this process? And we'll just go one by one.
The most memorable story that I have in working with students is probably more of a grouping of students. I found that one of the biggest mistakes that college-bound students and their families make is early on in the college admissions process and the research part of the process. We've been doing a survey on PrincetonReview.com for a number of years called College Hopes and Worries Survey, and the biggest mistake that we found that college kids and college-bound students and their families were making was that they would cross a school that was expensive because it had a high sticker price off of their list of consideration early on in the process. So my answer to the question is that these are avoidable mistakes, and I believe that some of the work that we've been doing at Princeton Review for a number of years, equipping students with information that they need, but also that their parents need around schools that do the near impossible, help you pay for college without making you mortgage out your future. We have a list on our website called America's Best Value Colleges, listing 100 schools, 50 public and 50 private, many from the schools that we represented here today. I encourage families, especially early on in the process, never cross a school off of your list of consideration early on because it has a high sticker price. I think you're going to find out that there's lots of aid out there, even through this recession lens. And starting early on in the process, you should give yourself a pat on the back for coming to this event today and listening to it throughout the fall, and that there's information out there that you can equip yourself with to be a very smart and savvy shopper. One of the other things, and I think to answer the second part of the question, is again around financial aid. We're teaching a number of financial aid and admissions courses throughout the fall and springtime, helping students navigate that process. I'm very proud of that, and you can find that information on PrincetonReview.com. Thank you.
I've had so many wonderful experiences with young people finding acceptance to the dream school of their choice, and some of them having so many choices that it becomes a hard decision. I can't put down one particular one. There have been so many joyous moments where everybody cried and it was all for joy. And there is so much emotion and happiness when the answers come out. The thing that I would like people to think about, people out there watching, is that the time to start thinking about the college process is probably before your child is taking the PSAT in the 10th grade. Not that they have to do any prepping, but they should at least be aware of what the questions are going to be like and filling in the bubbles. This is just, it's mechanics. But also, they're not expected, of course, to answer all the questions because the math questions are going to be way over their head. They're just starting 10th grade. But the wonderful thing about the PSAT is when it comes back to them in December, their school gives them back the booklet, the test booklet, and their score sheet with all their bubbles. And it tells the student, this was an easy question, this was a medium question, and this was a hard question. So the whole thing becomes a learning tool. Then, that's 10th grade and the beginning of 10th grade. Halfway through the 10th grade is when I feel a student should start doing some kind of real SAT tutoring. And these documents should go to the tutor, so the tutor can see the strengths and weaknesses, and they can focus in on where the student needs to concentrate. I believe that a student should take the SAT or the ACT as many times as they feel like it, and the more times, probably the better. And I do also believe that they need to be tutored. I don't know whether it's an online course or whether it's a large group or whether it's one-on-one. It can be expensive, but community colleges sometimes offer it free. And, you have to do a little research to find it, or just maybe pay a little bit of money to someone who's at a good college who scored well when they took the SAT. But the student really does need counseling on it. And it should start in January of the 10th grade. And the first time a student should take the SAT is January of the 11th grade.
Great, thank you.
It's not the most memorable, but one memorable story. It's kind of a sad story, but I think that it's an important story for some families to think about. One of my students was applying to Stanford, and he really, really wanted to go, but his father really, really, really wanted him to go. And his father had graduated from Stanford, and the boy had been going to football games every year since he could walk, and had all of the sweaters and et cetera, et cetera. So he didn't get in. Now, he did get into a school that was almost as selective as Stanford, and when the student called me to tell me where he had been admitted and where he was going to go, he was really, really happy about it. About a week later, the father called me on a Monday, I remember, to say that over the weekend, he and the boy had burned all of the Stanford hats and sweatshirts and tickets and posters and everything that they had, and the father was swearing that he was never going to donate any money again to Stanford. And what I tried to discuss with him was, how was his son feeling now about this experience? And just a few days ago, his son had been so happy about where he had been admitted. How was this affecting the joy that he was feeling? So I think it's very important for neither students or parents to fall in love with any particular college, because particularly at that level of selectivity where colleges are only admitting maybe 7 to 15% of all of their applicants, and all of the applicants are strong, you simply can't be sure that you will get in anywhere. And what ties in a little bit with that, what question haven't we addressed yet? So let's say that a student asks a question of me, I know that I may not be able to get into my first choice school. I'm going to do the very best that I can to present myself as positively as I can, but I know that I may not be able to get into that school. So when I do attend the college where I am admitted and where I matriculate, what can I do to make sure that my experience turns out to be as good as it can possibly be? Mm-hmm. So I think that what I explain to students is that they want to try to find right away a balance. They need to figure out college. They need to learn how much time they have to spend on their homework and their assignments. But they also need to get involved. They should join at least 2 clubs or 2 teams, or get involved in 2 activities, because that's the way they're going to meet what I call their people. That's the way they're going to meet the students who have something in common with them. And they will for sure have a good experience then. And so rather than lamenting where they didn't get in, they'll begin to move forward, and they'll have a good experience. And all students should realize that they could be happy at many, many colleges. There isn't only one college or university in the country where they could be happy.
Great, thank you.
Great. My memorable student is actually one who had a very different experience, but related to Stanford. And it was a student who was admitted to Stanford, but instead chose to go to Occidental College, where I was working. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you her name, I can think about her, I can see her, and I was so impressed that she chose a great school, but not as well known as a large university, Stanford. And she chose Occidental because it's where she belonged, and where she was happy, and where she would thrive. And just the fact that that student had such a strong sense of self really impressed me, that 20 years later, I still remember it. Second, in terms of what we didn't talk about community colleges. And I am a big proponent of community colleges as an option. Yes. And as we were talking about, thinking about different places, they're not for everyone, but I, encourage people to go on our website, the College Board website, where we do provide information about 2-year, 4-year colleges, because again, not that they're for everyone, but for even very talented students, they may be a very good launching pad, depending on their family circumstances, and where they think they're going to be happy.
Great. As an admissions officer, we're always very, very lucky when we can go to the wait list. And there's a story that I have of a student where I had recommended him to come off Columbia's wait list, and we had made that phone call, and the elation was there. And a few months later, they visited me on campus, and the student's mother told me that I had called the day of his graduation party. And so his mother had to go and get another cake with Columbia colors, because he was all ready to celebrate matriculating at another wonderful institution. But I think that really adds on to what the secret of this process is that we know this process takes time. It's an investment of time and energy, and there's a lot of stress that goes on into it. But more importantly, this is a human process that's highly subjective, but as admissions officers review your transcripts, your test scores, your activities, we're trying to see first and foremost that you can do the work on our college campuses. There are many different colleges out there that have different academic demands, different challenges, and trying to find that academic fit is definitely tantamount. The second part that we look at is to make sure that this is a right place for you and how you're going to grow and be part of our community. Because as I completely agree, and with this one student showed, he was happy at 2 places and ready to eat cakes from 2 different schools. And it was his mother that wanted to get a new cake. But I think that's something that as students engage in this process and they find the different individuals to help them, and that when everything is all said and done, they'll be happy. And I think that's something that we can lean off of.
I'm going to start with the second question first about what question wasn't asked. And I know many people are probably thinking this all sounds like it's a rich man's game with all the test prep, with all the consulting. How can I get a leg up? Well, there are tremendous opportunities out there for multicultural students and for students of limited means. And one of the best programs out there is QuestBridge, which is a nonprofit organization that matches students with some of the top colleges in the country. And the application is due at the end of this month for those of you who still have time to think about it. And if you meet the income, come under the income cap of QuestBridge and have the academics and the scores to go with it, you could be matched to any place from Dartmouth to UVA to Amherst. So that's a wonderful opportunity. Also, many schools have fly-in programs for diversity students, and diversity is interpreted many times broadly to include low-income students. So you might have a chance to fly in to Lehigh or to Williams for a free weekend to experience college life on campus. So call the diversity admissions reps at those schools and find out what opportunities are there for you and take advantage of them, because they could have big payoffs. And just in closing, I have a favorite story that sort of sums up what I think, the importance of the college hook and the college application process itself. That in truth, it can actually be a confidence-building experience. It doesn't have to be daunting and overwhelming and horrific. I had one student who he was my very first student actually, and it was his junior year. He had bombed out freshman and sophomore year for various reasons, and he was really on an uphill trajectory with his grades. But he didn't have much confidence in himself. He was really afraid he wasn't going to get into any college. And when we looked at his activities and what he was president of his student body, he was captain of the basketball class, he happened to be the photographer I talked about a little while earlier. When he started to put together that photographic portfolio that I was mentioning earlier, he took individual photographs of every member of his high school class. Unfortunately, he had a class of 25 students, so that was feasible. But he took black and white portraits of them, and as he was developing the film in his darkroom, as he started to see the portraits emerging of his fellow classmates, he realized that he was very good. And not only he realized it, but his parents realized he was good, and his headmaster realized he was good. And before you know it, the headmaster was asking him to take portraits of the entire faculty of his school and of his own family. And it turned out this student was actually a genius at photography. And if it hadn't been for the college application process, he would never have known that. And in addition to that, as he was taking these photographs, getting these accolades for the first time in his high school career at the end of first semester senior year, he was on the honor roll of his school. He ended up offered scholarships as early as February of his senior year, because some schools really loved his photography and they wanted him. He ended up getting into several of his Reach schools. Going to one of them, he started off, hit the ground running from freshman year on. His senior year, his photographic project was said to have raised the bar for photography at the school for generations to come. And he is now one of the hottest young artists in the country. And it all started with his college hook and the college application process. So students can be encouraged that if they find out who they really are and find their passion and run with it, that they could go all the way to the top. Nice.
Well said.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank the Wall Street Journal. I want to thank our panel of experts and our sponsor, Aristotle Circle.
We hope you enjoyed The Secrets of College Admission, what you need to know to get in. First and foremost, we'd like to thank our distinguished panelists, James Montoya, Robert Frennick, Rod Boogerin, Pam Proctor, Jane McClure, and Lily Treyes. Thanks to Cooper Union for hosting the event, to our sponsor, Aristotle Circle, and to all of the college officers and administrators, and the fans of the Wall Street Journal and Unigo who help us spread the word. Thank you to everyone who emailed or tweeted a question. And finally, thank you to our live audience and everyone tuning in via the web. We would love to hear what you thought of our webcast, and also what you'd like to see in the future. You can email us at wsjoncampus@unigo.com. That's wsjoncampus@unigo.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Come back to unigo.com in the next coming days and see exclusive behind-the-scenes footage from tonight's event, one-on-one interviews with our panelists, and rebroadcasts of The Secrets of College Admission, what you need to know to get in. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Haley with NYU Class of 2010. Good night and good luck.